The first signal came without sound. It appeared as a thin, white line on the deep space monitor of Station Vera 9, far beyond the safe trade lanes of the inner galaxy. At first, nobody looked at it for more than a second. Space was full of old signals, broken mining drones, dead probes, half-burned escape beacons drifting for years, with no owner left alive. But this one was different. It did not blink. It did not call for help. It did not ask permission. It moved in a straight line toward the center of civilized space. Junior Watch Officer Sale Vaughn leaned closer to the screen. His 4 fingers stopped above the control glass. The station around him was quiet, filled only with the low hum of air filters and the soft clicking of machines. "Unknown mass entering skin range," he said. Nobody answered at first. Then Commander HFY turned from the central platform. He was old enough to remember the border wars, old enough to hear fear inside a calm voice. "Size." Sale swallowed. "The scan is still reading." "Estimate." Sale looked again. His throat went dry. "Bigger than a city." That made the room stop. Across the station, officers lifted their heads. Screens changed. Long-range eyes opened across the dark. Distant satellites turned their cold faces toward the signal. The object moved slowly, but not weakly. It did not drift like wreckage. It advanced like something that still remembered where it was going. Commander HFY stepped down from the platform. "Show visual." The main screen filled with darkness. For a moment, nothing appeared. Then the stars vanished behind a shape. It was huge. A black structure slid out of the void, covered in scars, burn marks, and broken armor plates. Its outer hull looked ancient, but not dead. Towers rose from its back like mountains. Hangar mouths sat open like silent wounds. Along its side, massive weapon rings rested cold and still. Nobody spoke. Then one of the officers whispered, "Fortress class." Commander HFY did not move. "No," he said slowly. "Not ours." The image sharpened. A faded symbol appeared on the hull. A blue planet. A white moon. 3 thin lines beneath it. Sale felt his stomach twist. "Earth," he said. The word moved through the control room like a sickness. Earth. Humanity. The species that had vanished from the great maps 87 years ago. Not extinct. Not defeated. Not conquered. Just gone. One day, every human colony beyond Sol had gone silent. Their ships stopped answering. Their embassies closed. Their fleets disappeared from patrol routes. Even their enemies found empty stations, warm engines, meals left unfinished, lights still glowing in rooms where no one remained. The galaxy had made theories. Some said humanity had destroyed itself. Some said they had found a higher dimension and left like tired gods. Some said they were hiding, but no one truly knew. And now one of their warships had returned. Not just any warship, a floating fortress, a machine built to carry armies, cities, factories, hospitals, weapons, and generations of human fear. Commander HFY's voice dropped. "Open a channel." Sale's hands shook as he sent the hail. "This is Galactic Station Vera, 9 to unidentified Earth vessel. State your command, crew status, and purpose." The message left the station. It crossed the dark. It touched the fortress. No answer came. Sale tried again. "This is Vera 9. You are entering protected space. Identify yourself." Silence. The fortress kept moving. Not faster. Not slower. Just forward. Commander HFY looked at the scan officer. "Life signs." The scanned officer bent over her console. "One moment." Her eyes narrowed. She ran the scan again. Then again. Her voice came out smaller. "None." HFY turned. "Repeat that." "No life signs detected." The room became colder. Sale stared at the screen. The fortress was alive with power. Its engines burned low and steady. Its defense field flickered in broken waves. Internal lights were visible through cracks in its hull. But there were no heartbeats. No heat clusters. No breathing bodies. A city-sized human warship had returned from the dark. Empty. HFY folded his hands behind his back. Could the hull block the scan? "Maybe partially," the scan officer said. "But not completely. Not from this range. If thousands were aboard, we would see something." "How many should it carry?" Sale checked the old military archive. The answer appeared. His voice nearly failed. "Minimum crew 42,000. Nobody spoke after that. The fortress passed the outer beacon. Every alarm on Vera 9 began to glow red, but no siren sounded. The commander had muted them. Noise would not help fear. A second signal came from inside the ship. Not a voice. Not a warning. A door code. Sail blinked. "Commander, it is sending access permission." Harith stared at him. To whom? To us. The control room held its breath. The returned Earth fortress had ignored every question, but it had opened its door. 3 hours later, a boarding team crossed the empty space between station and ship. The shuttle looked like a child's toy beside the human vessel. Captain Mira Thalen sat at the front, helmet sealed, hand steady on her rifle. She had studied humans at the academy. Everyone did. You could not understand modern war without studying humans. But those lessons had always felt distant, old, safe. Now the black hull filled her window, and history felt close enough to touch. The shuttle entered a hangar large enough to hold a village. No defense system fired. No machine challenged them. The landing lights turned on by themselves. White strips of light appeared across the floor, guiding them to a safe dock. Mira watched them with unease. "It knows we are here," one soldier said. Mira did not answer. The shuttle landed with a soft metal groan. For 10 seconds, nobody moved. Then Mira stood. "Remember the order. No damage unless threatened. We are not here to conquer a ghost." The ramp opened. Cold air entered the shuttle. It smelled like old metal, dust, and something faintly burned. The team stepped down into the hangar. Their boots touched human steel. The place was enormous, but empty. Rows of landing clamps stood unused. Repaired drones hung from ceiling rails, motionless. Crates were stacked beside the walls, each marked with faded human writing. Mira raised her light. A small object floated near the floor. She reached for it. It was a child's red ball. Her soldiers saw it too. No one joked. Mira turned the ball slowly in her gloved hand. It had small handprints on it, pressed in old dust. "Why would a warship carry this?" one soldier asked. Mira looked across the hangar. Because humans brought life into their machines. They moved deeper. The first corridor was wide enough for vehicles. Emergency lights glowed along the floor. Human signs lined the walls, some damaged, some still readable through translation glass. Medical bay, civilian quarters, engine spine, memory chapel. Mira stopped at the last sign. "Memory chapel," the soldier behind her whispered. Humans were strange. They built weapons like monsters, then filled them with places to grieve. The team passed open rooms, a cafeteria with cups still placed on tables, a sleeping quarter with folded blankets, a classroom with drawings pinned to the wall. One drawing showed a blue planet. Another showed the fortress with smiling stick figures around it. Mira felt her chest tighten. This was not only a warship. It had been a home. But where had they gone? They reached the main crew deck after 20 minutes. There were no bodies, no blood, no signs of panic. That was the worst part. Everything looked interrupted, not destroyed. A chair turned away from a console. A half-written message on a screen. A jacket hanging beside a door. A metal cup sitting near a window, still fixed by a magnetic base. Mira walked toward the cup. Inside it, black liquid had dried into a ring. Her radio clicked. "Captain, you need to see this." She followed the voice to the command bridge. The bridge doors opened before she touched them. Inside, the room was dark except for one central console. It was active, waiting. Mira stepped carefully onto the bridge. 40 command seats circled the room, all empty. At the highest seat, there was a nameplate, Admiral Elias Rowan. Mira had heard the name in old files. Rowan had commanded the Earth Fortress Marathon, the same ship that vanished during the last human expansion wave, the same ship officially listed as lost beyond the veil. Mira looked at the main window. The stars outside looked still. "Captain," her tech officer said, "the ship has a message locked in its core. Can you open it?" It opened itself when you entered. The central console brightened. A human voice filled the bridge. Old, tired, calm. "This is Admiral Elias Rowan of the Earth Fortress Marathon." Mira froze. The recording continued. "If this message is playing, then the ship has returned without us." No one breathed. The voice paused, as if the dead admiral had needed time. "We were not taken." Mira slowly turned toward the console. "We were not killed." The bridge lights flickered. The voice became softer. "We chose to leave." A long silence followed. Then the main screen changed. It showed a star map no one in the galaxy recognized, beyond known space, beyond the dark border, beyond every warning line ever drawn. Admiral Rowan spoke one final sentence. "And whatever you do, do not follow us." The message ended. The fortress stayed silent. Mira stared at the map. For the first time since entering the ship, she understood something. The galaxy had not found a lost human weapon. It had found a locked door, and humanity had left it open just enough to warn them away. Captain Mira Thalen did not speak for almost a full minute. The bridge of the Marathon stayed quiet around her. The old human seats remained empty. The dead admiral's voice was gone, but his warning still felt alive in the air. "Do not follow us." Mira looked at the star map on the main screen. It showed a region beyond known space. No trade routes, no military stations, no survey marks, only a dark stretch of stars that even the oldest empires avoided. Her tech officer, Rollin, stood beside the console. "Captain," he said softly, "this map should not exist." Mira turned her eyes toward him. "Explain." Rollin swallowed. "The coordinates are outside the veil. No stable route has ever been found there." "Humans found one." "Yes," Rollin said, "and then they erased themselves from every visible system." Mira looked back at the screen. That answer was worse than fear. Humans had not vanished because they were weak. They had not run because they were defeated. They had left with purpose. Quietly. Completely. Like a civilization closing a door behind itself. But why send the fortress back? A low sound moved through the bridge. Not an alarm. A deep pulse. The floor trembled once beneath their boots. Mira raised one hand. "Status." Rollin bent over the console. "The ship is powering a lower archive. Can you stop it?" "No. It is not asking us." The main screen went black. Then a new recording appeared. This one was not Admiral Rowan. It was a room. A human room. Plain walls. A long table. For people seated under weak white light. Their faces looked tired, but not broken. One woman looked directly into the camera. "This record is not for enemies," she said. "It is for anyone who still thinks war is simple." Mira felt the words settle inside her. The woman continued. "We built a marathon to protect Earth. Then we used it to protect colonies. Then allies. Then trade lanes. Then worlds that had never heard our language." The image shifted. The screen showed battlefields, but not in the way Alien War Archive showed them. There were no victory banners. No glorious charges. No proud speeches. Only ships pulling civilians from burning moons. Human engineers sealing cracked habitats while missiles struck outside. Medics carrying alien children through smoke. A human soldier placing his helmet over the face of a dying enemy so the poison air would not reach him. Myra's team watched without moving. The woman's voice stayed calm. "We learned something the galaxy did not want to learn. Every war creates another war. Every saved world becomes a reason for someone else to attack. Every fortress becomes a target. Every protector becomes a threat." The video changed again. The marathon appeared in old footage, bright and whole. Around it were thousands of smaller ships. Not warships. Civilian ships. Colony ships. Hospital ships. Families. Children. Teachers. Farmers. Animals in glass habitats. Mira slowly lowered her weapon. The human woman said, "So we made a decision no empire understood." The screen showed human fleets gathering near a dark tear in space. A passage. A route through the veil. "We stopped trying to win the galaxy." Rollin whispered, "They left." The woman's eyes stayed on the camera. "We left to build something that did not need enemies." Mira felt a strange weight in her chest. This was not the story the galaxy had told. For 87 years, leaders had used humanity's disappearance as a lesson. They said humans had burned too bright. They said power had consumed them. They said even Earth could not survive its own weapons. But the empty fortress was telling another truth. Humanity had become tired of being the galaxy's weapon, and then it had walked away. The recording ended. A new file opened. This time, Admiral Rowan appeared again, older than before. His hair was white. His face was thin. Behind him, the command bridge looked damaged. Sparks moved across a dark ceiling. "If the marathon returned," Rowan said, "then the warning system worked." Myra's eyes narrowed. "Warning system." The Admiral leaned closer. "We left one fortress behind the veil entrance. Not to attack. Not to guard treasure. To watch. Rollins' hands moved quickly across the console. Captain, he said, voice tight. The ship came back because something crossed the border. Mira felt her skin turn cold. What crossed? Rollin did not answer at once. The ship answered for him. The screen showed a shape. It was not a fleet. It was not a creature. It was like a black stain moving between stars. Wherever it passed, signals died. Light bent around it. Planets below it went silent without fire, without explosions, without visible damage. Admiral Rowan's voice returned. We called it the Quiet. The name felt too small for what they saw. It does not conquer. It does not negotiate. It does not hate. It removes motion, thought, signal, heat, life. Myra's team stood frozen. Rowan continued. We did not defeat it. We survived it by learning how to stay unseen. The screen showed the marathon near the border, alone, waiting for decades. Now it has turned toward known space. A red line appeared on the map. It was moving toward Vera 9, toward the trade lanes, toward the galaxy. Myra's radio exploded with voices from the station. Captain, the fortress just transmitted a galaxy-wide warning. Every council system received it. Multiple fleets are mobilizing. Mira closed her eyes briefly. That was exactly what the humans had feared. The galaxy would see danger, and it would send warships. Warships made noise. Warships made heat. Warships made pride. The Quiet would find them all. Mira opened her eyes. Rollin, can we speak to the marathon? It has no crew. Not the crew. The ship. Rollin hesitated. Maybe. The lights across the bridge dimmed. Then the old human vessel spoke. Not with a human voice. With a low, careful tone, built from many recordings. Question received. Mira stood straighter. Why come here empty? The ship answered after 3 seconds. Crew removed to prevent pursuit. Mira frowned. You left them beyond the veil? Crew alive at final separation. Why send yourself back? To warn. To delay. To choose. Mira looked at the empty command seats. Choose what? The ship's answer was simple. Who understands? No one moved. Mira understood then. The fortress had not come back to save the galaxy by force. It had come back to see whether the galaxy had changed enough to be saved at all. Outside, distant engines began to appear on scan. Alien fleets. Dozens of them. Then hundreds. Every empire wanted to control the returned human fortress. Some wanted its weapons. Some wanted its maps. Some wanted to prove they were not afraid. Commander Haritha's voice came through Myra's helmet. Captain, council orders are clear. Secure the vessel. Do not allow independent operation. Mira looked at the red line on the screen. The Quiet was still coming. How long until contact? She asked Rollin. 6 hours. How long until council fleets arrive? 2. Mira almost laughed. 2 hours to make the same old mistake. She opened a channel to Vera 9. Commander, the fleets must stay back. That is not your decision. If they come in formation, they will lead it here faster. You are aboard a human superweapon, Captain. Step away from the core. Mira looked around the bridge, at the empty seats, at the child's drawing still hanging near the sidewall, at the dried cup beside the window, at the silence of 42,000 missing lives. No, she said. The channel went quiet. Then Harith spoke carefully. Captain Thalen, repeat that. Mira lifted her rifle and placed it on the floor. I said no. Her team stared at her. Mira looked at them one by one. You can return to the shuttle. No shame. None of them moved. Rollin removed his sidearm and set it beside her rifle. One by one, the others did the same. The marathon watched. Then the central chair moved backward with a soft mechanical sound. An invitation. Mira did not sit in it. She stood beside it. This is not my ship, she said. The fortress answered. Correct. But I understand enough. The lights across the bridge brightened. Outside, the first council ships arrived. They came proud and bright, engines burning, weapons awake. Mira opened every channel. Her voice crossed the dark. This is Captain Mira Thalen aboard the Earth Fortress Marathon. All fleets, cut engines. Kill active scans. Lower weapons. Do not approach. 100 commanders began shouting at once. She did not raise her voice. You are not facing a human weapon. You are facing the thing humans chose not to bring home. That stopped some of them. Not all. One Imperial cruiser pushed forward. Its captain sneered through the channel. We do not take orders from ghosts. The cruiser powered its targeting beams. The Marathon did not fire. Instead, it opened one hangar door. From inside, a single small drone flew out. Old, human-made, slow. It moved between the cruiser and empty space. Then it vanished. Not exploded. Vanished. For 1 second, the stars behind it bent inward. Every scanner screamed. Rollins' face went pale. That was a sample field. The Marathon spoke across all channels. Demonstration complete. The Imperial cruiser stopped, then powered down. One by one, other ships followed. Engines faded. Weapons slept. The dark grew quiet. And in that quiet, the red line slowed. The quiet had been listening for noise. Now there was almost none. Mira looked at the map. Can we hide them? The fortress answered. Partial chance. What do you need? Obedience. Mira exhaled. That will be difficult. Human assessment agreed. For the first time, one of Myra's soldiers gave a nervous smile. But the smile disappeared when the main screen changed. The quiet was close now. Not visible, but present. A black pressure moving behind reality. The Marathon began to unfold. Armor plates shifted. Towers lowered. The giant weapon rings did not charge as weapons. They turned inward, forming a circle around the fortress. Human machines awakened inside the hull, not to attack, but to hide every living signal nearby. Mira watched in awe. This was why the ship was a nightmare. Not because it could destroy fleets, because it had learned how not to be seen by death itself. The Council ships drifted silent around it, helpless, proud no longer. For 3 hours, no one moved. No one spoke above a whisper. The quiet passed. It crossed the edge of known space, like a blind god. One careless signal would have doomed them. One arrogant shot. One commander trying to prove strength. But the galaxy stayed silent, because an empty human fortress had returned and taught them fear in time. When the black pressure finally faded, hundreds of ships remained alive. No victory music played. No empire claimed honor. The Marathon sent one final message. Admiral Rowan's voice returned, soft with age. If you heard this after surviving, remember this. Humanity did not leave because we hated you. We left because we were becoming what you feared. The bridge was still. We built fortresses until every problem looked like a war. Then we found one enemy war could not beat. A pause. So we learned silence. We learned patience. We learned mercy from distance. The main lights dimmed. The galaxy does not need humanity's weapons. Mira looked at the empty command chair. It needs to understand why we stopped using them. The recording ended. The Marathon turned slowly toward the veil. Its engines glowed. Mira knew it would leave again. Are your people alive? She asked. The fortress paused, then answered. Yes. The word was small, but it changed history. Will they return? Another pause. Not until the galaxy can survive without needing them. Mira lowered her head. The fortress opened a path to her shuttle. This time, the corridors felt less like a grave, more like a lesson. As her team left, Mira placed the child's red ball back in the hangar where she had found it. She did not know why. It felt right. The shuttle cleared the dock. Behind them, the Marathon moved into the dark. No fleet followed. No weapon fired. Every ship in the galaxy watched the vanished Earth fortress return to the border of impossible space, then disappear. Years later, no one called it the galaxy's worst nightmare because it destroyed worlds. They called it that because it proved something far more frightening. Humanity had held enough power to rule everything. And still, somehow, they had chosen to walk away. For 9 days after the Marathon vanished, the galaxy did not move. Not in the old way. War fleets remained parked outside their own borders. Trade ships crossed space, with engines low. Patrol captains stopped using aggressive scans near the veil. Even pirates, who usually treated fear like a market, stayed away from the dark edge of known space. Captain Mira Thalen became famous against her will. Every council channel wanted her statement. Every empire wanted her memory files. Every military house wanted to know how a single empty Earth ship had made hundreds of fleets obey. Mira gave them the same answer each time. It did not make us obey. It made us understand. Most leaders hated that answer. Understanding could not be stored in a weapon vault. It could not be sold. It could not be aimed. On the 10th day, Mira returned to the hangar of Vera 9 alone. She stood near the wide viewing glass. and looked toward the stars, where the human fortress had disappeared. A small red ball rested on the table beside her, the same one from the marathon. She had left it behind, but after the fortress vanished, the ball appeared in her shuttle. No message, no explanation, just the red ball, sitting on the pilot's seat, like a memory that refused to stay buried. Roland entered quietly behind her. "You should sleep," he said. Mira did not turn. "You should stop saying that." "I will when you do." He placed a data slate on the table. "What is that?" "The last file the marathon sent before leaving. It was locked. It opened 1 hour ago." Mira looked at him. "Why now?" Roland's face was pale. "Because someone is coming back." The viewing glass darkened as station alarms shifted to silent mode. Not war alarms. Not attack warnings. Arrival notice. One small vessel appeared near the edge of sensor range. It was not a fortress. It was not a fleet. It was a simple ship, plain and narrow, with no visible weapons. Its hull was silver-white, marked by age, travel dust, and the same blue Earth symbol. Human. Mira felt her heartbeat slow. Life signs. Roland checked the slate. 1. The whole station waited. No one fired. No one demanded surrender. That alone proved something had changed. The human ship docked without drama. Its hatch opened after a soft pressure hiss. A single person stepped out. He was old. Human old, not alien old. Thin face. Deep lines near the eyes. White beard trimmed short. A dark coat patched at both elbows. He carried no weapon, only a brown leather notebook and a small metal cup hanging from his belt. Mira walked forward with 2 guards behind her. The old man looked at the guards, then at Mira. "You are Captain Thalen." His voice was rough, but warm. Mira stopped. "And you are?" "Daniel Rowan." Roland whispered behind her. "Rowan?" The old human nodded. "Grandson of Admiral Elias Rowan." No one spoke. The name felt too large for the quiet hangar. Mira studied him carefully. "Why are you here?" Daniel smiled sadly. "Because the marathon said someone listened." He looked past her at the station walls, the armed guards, the hidden cameras, the silent officers watching from upper decks. Then he said, "That is rare." Mira led him to a small council room with no flags and no weapons. She chose it on purpose. Daniel noticed, but said nothing. He sat slowly, as if his bones remembered too many planets. Mira placed the red ball on the table. Daniel's face changed. For the first time, his calm broke. He reached out, but stopped before touching it. "That was my mother's," he said. Myra's voice softened. "She was on the marathon?" "Yes. A child then." "She lived." Daniel nodded. "She lived long enough to hate that ball, then miss it, then tell every grandchild the story of losing it." He picked it up gently. For a moment, the old human did not look dangerous at all. He looked like someone holding home. Mira sat across from him. "The galaxy thinks humanity abandoned it." Daniel gave a tired laugh. "The galaxy always thinks it is the center of every story." "Then tell me the truth." Daniel looked toward the ceiling, as if listening to something far away. "We did not leave in one day. That is the myth. We left slowly, quietly. Families first, then hospitals, then archives, then farmers. Soldiers went last." "Why?" "Because soldiers always believe they are needed one more time." Mira said nothing. Daniel opened the notebook. Inside were handwritten names, thousands of them. Every human generation had a war, sometimes against enemies, sometimes beside allies, sometimes for people who would later hate us. We kept telling ourselves the next battle would create peace. He turned a page. It never did. Mira looked down at the names. "What is this list?" "People who voted not to return." That answer landed heavier than any threat. Daniel continued. "When we found the hidden region beyond the veil, we had a choice. Build another empire there, or build nothing that looked like one." "And what did humanity build?" Daniel smiled faintly. "Small things." Roland blinked. "Small. Schools, farms, clinics, listening halls, ships without guns, cities with no statues of generals." He tapped the notebook. "Laws that forbid any world from owning more weapons than it can morally explain to its own children." Mira leaned back slowly. "That sounds impossible." "It almost is," Daniel said. "That is why we stayed away. We knew if we returned too early, the galaxy would drag us back into being what we were good at." War. Yes. The room grew quiet. Then Mira asked the question every leader in known space wanted answered. Can humanity defeat the quiet? Daniel's expression did not change. No. Rollin looked stunned. But the marathon survived it. Surviving is not defeating. Daniel turned the red ball in his hands. The quiet is not an army. It is a condition. It feeds on noise, heat, command chains, fear responses, active systems. The more a civilization panics, the brighter it becomes to the quiet. Mira understood. That is why war fleets attract it. Yes, pride is loud. Empire is loud. Fear is louder. Then how do we stop it? Daniel looked at her carefully. You don't stop it. You become quiet enough to live beside it. For a military room, this was almost offensive. But Mira did not reject it. She had watched hundreds of proud ships survive only because they powered down and did nothing. Daniel closed the notebook. My people sent me to offer one thing. Not weapons. Not maps. Not protection. What then? A lesson. Rollin frowned. You crossed the veil to teach. Daniel nodded. One person. One ship. No army behind me. That was the condition. Mira studied his face. And if someone takes you prisoner? Daniel smiled. Then humanity will know the galaxy has learned nothing. For the first time, Mira felt fear for him. Not because he was weak. Because he had arrived completely unprotected by choice. That kind of trust was more dangerous than any weapon. Hours later, the emergency council gathered. Not in one room, but through thousands of link projections. Kings, generals, trade ministers, war priests, colony speakers, machine delegates, and border captains all appeared in cold blue light. Daniel stood in the center. Small, old, human. A general from the Varkan Empire spoke first. Where are your fleets? Daniel answered, At home. Where is home? Far enough. The general's eyes narrowed. You expect us to believe humanity has no intention to reclaim its old territories? No. I expect you not to believe it. Belief is cheap. Behavior is proof. Some delegates shifted uncomfortably. Mira watched from the side. Daniel lifted the notebook. I was asked to read one message. The chamber went silent. Daniel opened to the final page. It was not long. To the known galaxy, he read. We did not become peaceful because we forgot violence. We became peaceful because we remembered it too well. No one interrupted. We know what your weapons can do. We know what ours can do. We know the pleasure of victory, and we know how quickly that pleasure becomes hunger. Daniel's voice remained steady. The quiet is coming again. Not today. Not tomorrow. But it will return wherever civilizations grow too loud with fear. A few leaders looked away. So here is humanity's only offer. Reduce your war signals. End expansion fleets near the Veil. Build shelters that do not rely on weapons. Teach your children that survival is not the same as conquest. The Varkan general laughed coldly. And if we refuse? Daniel closed the notebook. Then you will meet the quiet loudly. The words were simple. That made them worse. A trade minister spoke next, voice nervous. And humanity will not save us. Daniel looked sad. We already tried saving everyone with ships. He looked at Mira. She knows how that ended. Mira did not move. The council argued for 6 hours. Some wanted to seize Daniel's ship. Some wanted to follow him back. Some wanted to accuse humanity of cowardice. But each time anger rose, the live sensor feed showed the Veil. Dark. Waiting. And every leader remembered the moment when silence saved their fleets. At last, the smallest colony speaker asked, What is the first lesson? Daniel turned to him. Turn off anything you do not need. The speaker frowned. That is all. No, Daniel said. That is just the first honest thing. Across the next months, the galaxy changed badly, slowly, imperfectly. Not because it became noble overnight. It did not. Ampia still lied. Generals still wanted budgets. Old enemies still watched each other with cold eyes. But near the Veil, weapons platforms were dismantled. Active scans were reduced. Civilian shelters were built under moons. Children learned the word quiet, not as a monster, but as a warning about arrogance. Mira left the military 6 months later. Not in disgrace. Not in glory. She became the first director of the Silent Border Accord. Her office was small. Her desk was plain. On it sat a small red ball. Daniel visited sometimes. He never stayed long. One evening, Mira found him standing by the window, looking toward the dark. "Will I ever see your world?" she asked. Daniel smiled. "Maybe one day. When? When no one asks where our weapons are before asking how our children live." Years passed. The quiet returned twice. Both times, the border went dark before it arrived. Both times, it passed without feeding. The galaxy did not defeat it. It learned to survive. And far beyond the veil, humanity remained mostly unseen. Sometimes, a small human ship appeared near a border colony with medicine. Sometimes, an old Earth machine repaired a failing habitat and vanished before thanks could be given. Sometimes, children on distant worlds found red balls, metal cups, paper books, or handwritten notes in places where disaster had almost happened. No one saw the marathon again, but every captain knew the rule. When the dark pressure came, do not shout, do not fire, do not prove strength. Become still. Listen. Live. And in time, the galaxy stopped calling the vanished Earth fortress a nightmare. Nightmares come to harm. The marathon had come to warn. The real nightmare was the truth it left behind. Humanity had not disappeared because it was defeated. Humanity had walked away from power before power finished changing its soul. And for a galaxy raised to worship strength, that choice remained the most terrifying thing humans had ever done. The first invitation from humanity did not arrive like an order. It came as a paper letter. That alone made half the council suspicious. No digital seal. No military code. No encrypted threat hidden inside the language. Just a thin white page placed inside a small metal tube, delivered by an unmanned human courier that appeared near Vera 9 and left before anyone could question it. Captain Mira Thalen opened it in her office. The red ball sat on her desk. Daniel Rowan stood beside the window, holding his old metal cup. Mira read the letter twice, then a third time. Her voice was low. "They are inviting one delegation beyond the veil." Daniel did not look surprised. "One delegation," he said, "not a fleet." Mira looked at him. "Why now?" Daniel turned toward the stars. "Because the galaxy survived 2 passes of the quiet without firing a shot." "That is enough." "No," Daniel said gently. "But it is a beginning. The council almost ruined it in the first hour. Every empire wanted a seat. Every military power demanded an escort. Some called it a trap. Others called it a chance to steal human knowledge. A few honest voices simply said they were afraid. In the end, humanity's conditions settled the argument. Only 12 visitors. No soldiers. No weapons. No active scans. No recording devices. And Mira had to lead them. She did not know whether to feel honored or punished. The journey began in a ship so small it offended the proud members of the delegation. It had soft lights, quiet engines, and no visible guns. The pilot was not human. It was the Marathon's old navigation drone, rebuilt into something gentle. It guided them to the edge of the veil. There, space looked wrong. Stars bent slightly, as if seen through deep water. The dark ahead was not empty. It felt covered. One delegate whispered a prayer. Another closed his eyes. Mira kept her hand on the red ball in her coat pocket. Daniel sat across from her, calm as always. "Do not fight the silence," he said. The ship entered the veil. For a moment, every sound disappeared. No engine hum. No breath. No heartbeat. Mira felt as if the universe had placed a hand over her mouth. Then light returned. Not bright. Soft. Golden. The ship emerged above a world. It was blue, green, and quiet. No defense ring circled it. No orbital cannons watched the sky. No war docks hung over its moons. Small ships moved slowly between stations shaped like gardens. Sunlight touched silver lakes below. White clouds drifted over wide fields. Someone behind Mira whispered, "Where are the cities?" Daniel pointed. "There." At first, Mira saw only hills. Then she noticed the windows built into them, the roofs covered in grass, the towers hidden among trees. The roads were narrow, curved, almost shy. Humanity had built a world that did not try to announce itself. The ship landed beside a valley. No soldiers waited. No flags. Only people. Humans of many ages stood near a wooden platform. Some wore simple coats. Some carried tools. A few children watched from behind adults, curious and nervous. Mira stepped down first. The air smelled of rain and soil. An old woman came forward. She looked nothing like a ruler. Her hair was silver, tied back loosely. Her hands were rough from work. She smiled at Daniel first, then at Mira. "Welcome," she said. "I am Mara Rowan." Daniel bowed his head. Mira understood before anyone said it. Daniel's mother, the child who had lost the red ball on the marathon. Mira slowly took the ball from her pocket and held it out. Mara looked at it for a long time. Then she laughed. Not loudly. Softly, with tears in her eyes. "I blamed a gravity vent for stealing that," she said. Mira smiled a little. "It traveled farther than most ships." Mara took the ball with both hands. For the first time since crossing the veil, the delegation stopped thinking about weapons. They were looking at a mother holding a childhood toy. That was humanity's first lesson beyond the veil. Not technology. Not power. Memory. The visitors were taken through the valley on foot. This annoyed the Varkan delegate, who was used to armored transports. Mara noticed. "You may rest if walking is difficult," she said. "It is not difficult," he replied coldly. "Then it is useful." Daniel hid a smile. They passed a school where children learned under open windows. On one wall, Mira saw drawings of many species, not just humans. One child had drawn the marathon as a sleeping whale in space. They passed a clinic where human doctors treated an alien farmer from an unknown species. No one explained how he had arrived. No one asked for payment. They passed a workshop where machines were being taken apart instead of built larger. One council scientist finally asked, "Where are your advanced weapons?" A young human engineer looked confused. "In museums, mostly. Mostly. Some are buried inside suns." The scientist thought it was a joke. The engineer did not laugh. Mira watched carefully. This place was not weak. That became clear with every step. Its strength was simply not displayed. Power lines were hidden underground. Emergency shelters were built into mountains. Ships were designed to disappear from hostile sensors. Every system had backups, but nothing looked like a fortress. Humanity had not abandoned discipline. It had removed performance. That frightened some delegates more than weapons would have. At sunset, they were brought to a circular hall built from stone, wood, and glass. No throne stood inside. No central seat was higher than the others. Everyone sat in a circle. Mara placed the red ball in the center. "The galaxy came to see where humanity went," she said. Her voice was quiet, yet the room listened. "This is where we went. Not to paradise. Not to victory. To work." The Varkan delegate leaned forward. "You expect us to believe your people have no armies?" Mara looked at him. "No. I expect you to understand why we fear needing them." He did not answer. Another delegate asked, "What happens if the quiet enters your system?" "Everything sleeps," Mara said. "Our cities lower heat. Our ships vanish. Our minds slow. Our children are taught not to panic." "That is your defense." "That is our first defense." "And the last." Mara's face changed. For 1 second, everyone in the room remembered that she was human. The last defense is never discussed with visitors. No one asked again. Later that night, Mira walked alone beyond the hall. She found Daniel standing near a river. The water reflected 3 moons. "This world is beautiful," Mira said. Daniel nodded. "It took us 87 years to stop designing it like a military base." Did everyone agree to that? No. What happened to those who wanted the old way? Daniel picked up a small stone and turned it in his fingers. They were heard, then limited. Limited how? No leader here can command force alone. No weapon can be built without public moral review. No emergency power lasts longer than 7 days. No child is taught that glory belongs to killing. Mira looked at the quiet homes across the river. And that worked. Daniel gave a tired smile. Some days. She appreciated the honesty. Before dawn, alarm sounded. Not loud. 3 low bells across the valley. Daniel's face tightened. Mara entered the guest house moments later. "The quiet has touched the outer veil," she said. The delegates froze. "Here. Now." The Varkan delegate stood. "Where are your evacuation ships?" Mara answered. "Sleeping." "Wake them." "No." His voice rose. "You would let your people die." Mara stepped close to him. "If we panic, we shine." The words struck the room. Outside, the valley changed. Lights went out one by one. Machines lowered into silence. Ships settled onto the ground like birds folding wings. Children moved with adults into underground rooms, not crying, not rushing. Mira watched from the window. No screams. No stampede. No desperate command. Only practiced quiet. Humanity had trained fear until fear knew how to kneel. Then the sky darkened. The quiet arrived without shape. Clouds stopped moving. The river became black glass. Mira felt pressure inside her skull, like a thought trying to erase itself. One delegate whimpered. Daniel placed a hand on his shoulder. Breathe slowly. The Varkan delegate shook. His species hated stillness. His instincts wanted action, orders, movement. Mara saw him reach for a hidden transmitter. Her voice became sharp. Do not. He froze. The transmitter blinked once in his sleeve. One tiny signal. Above the valley, the sky bent. The quiet noticed. The ground trembled. Children below began to hum. Very softly. Not a song of joy. A rhythm. A controlled sound. Lower than panic. Steadier than fear. Adults joined. The hum moved through the valley like a heartbeat that refused to race. Mira felt her own terror slow. The Varkan delegate stared at the floor, ashamed and shaking. I am sorry, he whispered. Mara did not waste time on anger. Then be still. The quiet pressed closer. For one awful moment, the edge of a building faded, as if the universe had forgotten it. Then deep under the hills, something ancient woke. Not a weapon beam. Not an explosion. A field of perfect stillness spread through the valley. It covered heat, thought, noise, electrical pulse, even fear signals. Mira felt herself become a candle hidden inside stone. The quiet drifted over them. Searching. Hungry. Blind. It passed. When dawn finally came, the valley returned slowly. Lights warmed. Children emerged. The river moved again. No one cheered. That was what struck Mira most. They had survived, and no one turned survival into pride. Mara walked to the Varkan delegate and held out his hidden transmitter. He looked ready for punishment. Instead, she placed it in his hand. Take this home, she said. Show them why small signals matter. He lowered his head. I almost killed your valley. Yes, Mara said. Then, after a pause, and now you know. The delegation left the next day. Before boarding, Mira turned back toward the quiet world. Will the galaxy ever be allowed to return? She asked. Mara stood with Daniel beside her. When it comes to learn, Mara said, not to take. The ship crossed the veil again. Known space looked harsher afterward. Brighter, louder, younger. At the council, no one spoke for several minutes after Myra's report. Then the Varkan delegate stood. Everyone expected denial. Instead, he removed the hidden transmitter from his sleeve and placed it on the central table. This almost ended a world, he said. His voice broke slightly. Because I could not be still. That changed more minds than Myra's report ever could. Years later, the first silent schools were built across the border colonies. Then quiet shelters. Then moral review councils. Not everywhere. Not perfectly. But enough. And far beyond the veil, humanity remained watchful, unseen, and deeply alive. The galaxy had once feared human warships. Then it feared their silence. But after Mira saw the world beyond the veil, she understood the truth. Humanity's greatest fortress was never the marathon. It was not steel. It was not weapons. It was the impossible discipline to hold power, and not let power become the center of the soul. The galaxy changed slowly. Not beautifully. Not cleanly. It changed the way old metal bends under heat, with noise, resistance, and cracks. Some worlds accepted the silent border accord. Some mocked it. Some said humanity had poisoned the council with weakness. Others said quiet shelters were cheaper than fleets. So they accepted the idea for selfish reasons. Mira Thalen did not care why they started. She only cared that they started. 5 years after the first visit beyond the veil, she stood inside a new silent school on the moon of Arcot. The building was simple. No flags. No military banners. No giant statues of heroes. Just classrooms, thick walls, low-energy systems, and underground halls where children could survive if the quiet passed near them. A young alien child raised one small hand. Director Mira, the child asked. Were humans scared? Mira looked at the class. Every face waited. Yes, she said. Very scared. The children looked surprised. One asked, then why did they not run? Mira touched the red ball on her desk. Because they learned that running loudly can be worse than standing still. The teacher nodded, writing it down. But outside the school, the old galaxy was still alive. In orbit above Arcot, 3 warships arrived without permission. Their hulls were sharp and black, marked with the broken crown of the Varkan splinter fleet. Not the main empire. A faction. Angry soldiers who believed their leaders had become soft after seeing humanity's world. Their commander, Lord Seraph, sent one message to the moon. Hand over all human silence technology. Refuse and we take it. Mira listened from the school's small control room. Beside her stood Mara Rowan, older now, thinner, but still calm. She had come to inspect the school, not to fight a war. The local governor panicked over the channel. We should call the defense fleet. Mira closed her eyes. That was the old answer. More ships, more heat, more signals, more noise. Mara looked at her. What do you choose? Mira understood the test. Humanity had given them lessons, but lessons meant nothing until fear arrived. She opened the channel to the governor. No fleet. The governor shouted. They are threatening children. I know. Then what do we do? Mira looked through the window at the classroom below. The children were being moved calmly into the lower halls. No crying. No stampede. We become quiet. In orbit, Lord Seraph laughed when the moon went dark. Cities dimmed. Traffic stopped. Satellites folded their panels. The silent school sealed its outer walls. He thought it was surrender. See, he told his officers, this is what human philosophy creates. Weakness. His ships moved lower. Then his long-range sensors detected something beyond the moon. A pressure. A dark movement near the edge of the system. The quiet. Seraph stared at the screen. It had followed his fleet's engine burn. For the first time, his pride felt small. His officer whispered, Commander, we should retreat. Seraph knew retreat would make engine noise. Fighting would make more. Calling for help would shine like fire. Below, Myra's voice came through his dead channel. Very soft. Cut your engines. Seraph clenched his jaw. You expect me to obey you? No, Mira said. I expect you to live. The quiet moved closer. The black shape touched one of Seraph's outer drones. The drone vanished without explosion. No fire. No wreckage. Just absence. Seraph's hand shook. Mara stepped beside Mira and spoke into the channel. Commander, your soldiers do not need your pride. They need your discipline. For some reason, that reached him. Maybe because it did not sound like an enemy. Maybe because he had spent his life obeying loud men, and this old human woman sounded stronger than all of them. Seraph lowered his head. Power down. His officers stared. Now, he said. The 3 warships went dark. For 20 minutes, the moon, the school, and the enemy fleet all drifted together in silence. The children in the shelter hummed softly, the way human children had done beyond the veil. The quiet passed. When light returned, Seraph did not attack. His ship stayed in orbit, powerless by choice. Then he sent a message. Not to the governor. Not to the council. To the school. I request permission, he said slowly, to land one shuttle. Mira allowed it. Lord Seraph entered the silent school without armor. His face was hard, but his eyes were changed. He stood before the children he had threatened. For a long moment, he could not speak. Then he bowed. I was loud, he said, and it almost killed you. A small child asked, Will you be quiet now? Seraph gave a broken laugh. I will try. That recording spread across the galaxy. Not because it was dramatic, because it was honest. A warlord had not been defeated by human weapons. He had been defeated by the moment he understood what his pride cost. Years passed again. The quiet came less often. Or maybe the galaxy became harder for it to find. Weapons still existed. Borders still mattered. Evil did not vanish. But something had shifted deep inside the way people spoke about strength. A commander who fired first was no longer called bold. He was called loud. A ruler who built weapons without explaining them to children was no longer called wise. He was called afraid. And far beyond the veil, humanity watched. Not as masters. Not as gods. As witnesses. Mira grew old in the work. Her hair turned silver. Her hands became thin. Her voice became softer. But children still listened when she spoke, because she never made fear sound easy. On her final visit to Vera 9, she stood again before the same viewing glass where she had once watched the marathon disappear. Daniel Rowan was gone by then. Mara too. Most of the first witnesses had become names in quiet books. The red ball remained in Myra's hand. A young officer approached her. Director, he said, there is a signal. Mira turned slowly. Her heart knew before her mind did. On the screen, a shape appeared at the edge of the veil. Huge, black, scarred, silent. The Earth Fortress Marathon had returned. The control room froze, just as it had decades before. But this time, no one panicked. No sirens screamed. No weapons charged. No one shouted orders. The young officer simply asked, "Should we open a channel?" Mira smiled faintly. "No," she said. "Let it speak when it is ready." For 7 minutes, the fortress waited. Then a message appeared. Not from Admiral Rowan. Not from the ship's machine voice. From humanity. The galaxy has learned to lower its voice. Mira felt tears fill her eyes. The message continued. "We are not returning to rule. We are not returning to lead. But we will no longer remain completely hidden." Across known space, millions watched the transmission. Human ships began appearing near the veil. Small ships, medical ships, teacher ships, seed ships, repair ships. No armadas, no conquest fleets, no floating threats. Humanity returned like rain after a long dry season. Quietly, useful, careful. The Marathon moved closer to Vera 9. Its hangar opened. Inside, lights glowed warmly. Mira received one private message. "Captain Thalen, permission to return lost property." She laughed through tears. Her shuttle entered the same hangar where she had once found the red ball. This time, humans waited there. Not soldiers. Families. Children. Engineers. Doctors. An old woman stepped forward and held out her hands. She was Mara's granddaughter. Mira placed the red ball into them. "It kept traveling," Mira said. The woman smiled. "So did we." Mira looked around the hangar. It no longer felt empty. The fortress had come back full of life, but not full of hunger. That was the difference. The nightmare had ended because the galaxy finally understood what it had feared. Not human destruction, human restraint, the ability to build the greatest weapon in the stars, then teach it to become a shelter. Mira stepped onto the bridge one last time. The command chair was still there. Beside it, someone had placed a small metal cup, a paper notebook, and a child's drawing of a blue planet. The Marathon spoke softly. "Welcome back." Mira looked out at the stars. For most of her life, the galaxy had asked where humanity went. Now she knew the answer. Humanity had gone inward first, into memory, into guilt, into discipline, into the hard work of becoming safe from its own strength. Only after that did it cross the veil again. Outside, human ships and alien ships drifted together in low light. No one needed to kneel. No one needed to surrender. No one needed to prove they were powerful. They were alive. And for the first time in a very long age, that was enough. The vanished Earth warship had returned as the galaxy's worst nightmare. But its nightmare was never death. Its nightmare was the question it forced every civilization to ask. If you had the power to rule everything, would you still have the strength to walk away? The return of humanity did not create peace. It created responsibility. That was harder. Many worlds welcomed the human ships with open ports. Others kept distance. Some feared hidden motives. Some wanted the old human weapons. Some wanted alliance, protection, trade, medicine, knowledge, or revenge against enemies. Humanity refused most offers. Not rudely, not proudly. Simply, they sent doctors where disease had spread. They sent engineers where moons were cracking. They sent teachers where children had only learned war maps. But when kings asked for fleets, humanity sent nothing. When generals asked for weapons, humanity sent books. When empires asked for defense treaties, humanity sent one sentence: learn to defend life before defending pride. Many hated that. One ruler hated it most. His name was High Marshal Ver Korath. He ruled the Ashen Dominion, a hard empire built near the old war lanes. His people had survived by striking first for centuries. To him, silence was weakness. Restraint was a chain. Humanity's return felt like an insult. So he made a plan. Not to attack Earth. Not yet. He wanted the Marathon, the vanished fortress, the symbol, the ship that had made the galaxy kneel without firing. Korath believed if he captured it, every quiet world would remember fear again. He waited until the Marathon docked above Vera 9 for repairs. Then he sent no fleet. He had learned that much. Instead, he sent one stolen human code, one hidden boarding craft, and 12 soldiers trained to move without signals. They entered the fortress through an old maintenance wound. But the Marathon knew. It let them in. The soldiers moved through empty corridors, weapons low, steps careful. The ship seemed to sleep. No alarm. No defense drones. No human guards. At the front walked Korath himself. He wanted to stand on the human bridge when the galaxy learned he had taken it. They reached the command deck. The doors opened. Inside stood Mira Thalen, old now, silver-haired, small beside the giant command windows. No armor. No weapon. Only the red ball resting on the console beside her. Korath froze. "You should not be here," he said. Mira looked at him calmly. "Neither should you." His soldiers raised weapons. The ship did nothing. Korath smiled. "Your famous fortress is helpless." Mira shook her head. "No, it is patient." Korath stepped closer. "Give me command access." "No, you are old. Do not die for a machine." Mira looked around the bridge. This was never just a machine. He pointed his weapon at her. "I will ask once more." The Marathon spoke before Mira could answer. "Command access denied." Korath looked upward. "I have human codes." "Old codes." "I have force." "Insufficient." His face hardened. "Then I have hostages." His soldiers dragged in 3 young human engineers from the lower deck. Their hands were bound. Their faces were afraid, but they stayed quiet. Mira's eyes changed. Korath noticed. "There," he said softly. "Even silence breaks when life is held close." Mira did not deny it. "Yes," she said. "That is why silence needs discipline." Korath laughed. "Discipline will not save them." "No," Mira said, "but truth might." She touched the console. The bridge windows brightened. Across the galaxy, every open channel received the live image. Korath's soldiers shifted in alarm. Mira spoke clearly. "This is Mira Thalen aboard the Earth Fortress Marathon. The Ashen Dominion has boarded this ship and taken hostages." Korath lunged forward. "Cut the transmission." The ship ignored him. Mira continued. "No fleet is to respond. No weapons are to power. No rescue strike is authorized." The council channels erupted. Mira raised her voice only slightly. "If you come loudly, you will prove him right." Korath stared at her. "You are ordering them not to save you." "I am ordering them not to become you." For the first time, his confidence cracked. Then something worse happened. A deep pressure touched the edge of the system. The quiet had heard the fear. Not from fleets. Not from engines. From the Dominion's hidden ship. From the stolen codes. From the panic burst of one soldier's nervous transmitter. On the screen, a dark stain formed beyond Vera 9. Korath's soldiers looked at it in horror. Mira closed her eyes. "Now you see." Korath whispered. "You brought it." "No," Mira said. "You called it." The quiet moved closer. The station began shutting down. Human ships lowered their heat. Alien vessels dimmed into darkness. Across the system, millions followed the old training. But the Marathon could not fully sleep. Not with armed intruders inside its command core. Not with hostage fear rising like flame. Korath backed toward the command chair. "Activate the fortress." Mira shook her head. "If you wake its weapons, the quiet will come straight here." "Then destroy it." "It cannot be destroyed that way." His eyes burned. "You people built monsters and then became afraid of using them." Mira stepped closer despite the weapons. "No, we became afraid of enjoying them." That sentence silenced the bridge. Even the soldiers heard it. The quiet crossed the outer moon. One abandoned satellite vanished. No explosion. Just gone. A young Dominion soldier began to shake. His weapon lowered slightly. Mira looked at him. "What is your name?" He blinked. Korath snapped. "Do not answer." The soldier swallowed. "Terran." "Terran," Mira said gently. "Do you want to die for his pride?" The soldier's eyes moved to the window. The quiet was closer now. "No," he whispered. Korath turned his weapon on him. "Traitor." Before he could fire, one of the human engineers moved. Not attacking. She simply stepped between the weapon and Terran. Her hands were still tied. Her voice trembled, but she spoke. "He is afraid. That is not treason." Another Dominion soldier lowered his gun. Then another. Korath looked around, suddenly alone among his own people. "You are all weak." Mira answered, "No. They are becoming quiet." The Marathon dimmed the bridge lights. Its voice filled the room. "Emergency stillness field available. Requires all weapons lowered." Korath gripped his rifle harder. The quiet touched the station's outer defense ring. Part of it faded. Mira looked at him. Marshal, this is the last moment where your choice matters. He breathed fast. His whole life had taught him that command meant never yielding. That survival meant being feared. That mercy was a crack enemies entered through. But outside, the universe was showing him a different law. The loud were found. The proud were eaten. The still survived. Slowly, Terran placed his weapon on the floor. One by one, the others followed. Only Korath remained armed. Mira did not beg. She simply waited. The quiet reached toward the marathon. Korath screamed and threw his rifle down. The stillness field opened. There was no flash, no sound. The bridge became almost unreal. Fear slowed. Heartbeats softened. Thoughts grew gentle and distant. The quiet passed over the fortress like a shadow over deep stone. It searched for anger, for heat, for command, for panic. It found almost nothing. For one terrible minute, half the main window turned black. Then the stars returned. The system lived. Korath fell to his knees. No one touched him. No one celebrated. That was the cruelest mercy of all. He had not been defeated by force. He had been left alive with understanding. Later, when the council asked what punishment humanity demanded, the answer came from the marathon itself. None. Many objected. Mira explained. Punishment may be needed by law, but humanity demands no revenge. Korath was removed from power by his own soldiers. Terran testified against him. The Ashen Dominion changed slowly, painfully, but it changed. The bridge incident became known as the Last Quiet Order, not because it ended all war. War did not vanish. But after that day, every commander in known space understood one truth. The greatest danger was not the enemy across the border. It was the moment fear made you loud. Mira died 3 years later. Not in battle, not in sacrifice. In a small room on Vera 9, beside a window, facing the Veil. The marathon carried her body beyond the border. Humanity and the galaxy watched together in silence. No anthem played. No guns fired. No Empire flag covered her. Only the red ball rested beside her hands. The fortress disappeared into the Veil one final time. When it returned, the ball was gone. In its place, on the command console, was a small paper note. Myra's last words. Not a warning. Not a speech. Only one line. Power is safest when it remembers what it can break. The note was copied into every silent school. Children read it before learning tactics. Commanders read it before taking rank. Rulers read it before approving weapons. And the marathon remained at the border, no longer empty. No longer feared as a nightmare, but never treated as ordinary. It was a fortress, a shelter, a memory, a question made of steel. Years later, when young pilots asked why humanity had vanished, their teachers did not say humans were defeated. They did not say humans ran. They said humanity looked at its own strength and became afraid of what victory was doing to its soul. So it left. It learned. It returned only when it could bring more than war. And that was why the galaxy never forgot the vanished Earth warship. Because when it came back, it did not prove humanity was unstoppable. It proved something far rarer. Humanity had stopped itself.